Shelby here. Welcome back to A Little Literary Love. I'm glad you all are with me today. We have a different setup for today's video because I'm going to be doing my May mid-month wrap-up, but I am home today and both of my kids are with me and they're both napping right now, so this is like the best time for me to film. And my youngest daughter is actually napping in my room where I usually film all of my videos. So today we're in my living room and it's just gonna be how it is. I also did different makeup today because I made an Instagram post about one of the books that we're gonna get to near the end of this video, that I wanted to post on Instagram because it was a favorite. It's one of my favorite books that I've read this year so far, so I'm really excited to talk to you all about that and get to that. Before we jump into all the books that I've read in the first half of May, please make sure to subscribe to my channel if you like my content. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. And yeah, so let's just get in. So the first book that I read in May is going to be Switch Eater by K.L. Moore. This is an Omegaverse book. I've been really into Omegaverse and I'm wanting to read a lot more. So this is about our heroine. She is an Omega and she has gone to this Omega like boarding school in a sense that basically just teaches them like how to be a good Omegas in a pack, pack dynamics, that kind of thing. And every Omega that goes here, it's like near their graduation, most of the time they've already found a pack and are already like ready to like bond, but she has not. She has still not found a pack and she's really worried about this. She's kind of upset by this too, but then at her graduation she meets this alpha and beta pair that she likes their scents, but there's a scent that's on both of them that she just absolutely craves. She goes crazy for this scent, and she figures out that this alpha and beta are already in a pack, are already in a bonded pack, and already have their own Omega, and this is the scent that she is going crazy for. She wants to meet this Omega. So this one was kind of interesting, just the fact that it's two Omegas falling in love, and then they bring in the rest of the people of the pack around with them, but it's centralized around these two Omegas, and everybody gives them crap for it because they're like, you can't have more than one Omega in a pack, it's not going to work out, it's just going to be too difficult, blah blah blah. So they figured out a way to make it work, and yeah, I gave this one 3 stars. I wanted to like this one a lot more than I did. I liked the idea of it, but it was just very long and very drawn out. On the one hand, I think it was good that the author did that because there's so many different characters in this book that it took a lot of time for this author to make these relationships like form and like the development of the relationships, but it did get very boring for most of the book, so that's why I only gave it 3 stars, because by like halfway in I was ready to just be like done with reading this book. Steam on this is going to be high. There is lots of there's also like female action in this book because one of the alphas is a female and our heroine, she's Omega, so they have some like sexual interactions. There is male interactions, there's group interactions too, so it's very sexual, but it's just very boring. Then I read The Crown of Gilded Bones by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the third book of From Blood and Ash series. I don't really know what to say what this is about, just because each book kind of builds off of each other. Yeah. So basically, like, Poppy could become the ruler, but in this one, there's a bunch of people that don't want her to do that, so they're trying to find out who those people are and to stop them. I gave this 3.5 stars. I'm starting to not like this series anymore. it still hooked me. I was still enjoying most of it as I was reading it, but it's gotten to the point that I think this author is just trying to drag out this story to make more money, to put out more books, and just is because it's become so popular. I think she's just trying to milk it for all it's worth, and I don't like it when authors do that. I think this series could have been a perfect like trilogy and been wrapped up in it, but now that she's dragging it out and making it into 6 books, and then she's also got this other prequel series that she's like tied into this, I'm getting really annoyed with it. I have a friend that absolutely loves this series and loves everything about it, and she really wants me to continue on. So I might. I haven't really decided yet, but there's that. Then we're getting into some of the books that I read for the Mafia Romance Readathon. So I will leave a, like, up in the cards, like a link to the video. I did a vlog for that. I read 4 romances for that, so we're gonna get to those. First one being Brutal Intentions by Lilith Vincent. This is the first book in her Brutal Heart series. I think there's only 2 books in this series. I don't know if she's gonna be doing any more, but this is a stepfather stepdaughter romance. So our hero is married to our heroine's mother, but this is an arranged marriage. They don't really like each other. He's only married her because he wants his inheritance, which his brothers are in control over, and they are not going to give it to him until he gets married and has a kid, because he's known as kind of like a playboy kind of character. So they're wanting him to basically like grow up, and they think him settling down and having a family will make him like act more mature and more like an adult. But he doesn't really like this. Like I said, he doesn't like his wife. She's kind of a bitch. But he's very intrigued by his new stepdaughter because nobody in her family likes her, and she's kind of picked on a lot. So her mother actually had her out of wedlock, and instead of the family looking down on the mother, they kind of ostracize our heroine. So they're all very mean to her. They basically ignore her. It's very odd behavior, and he thinks this is strange, and he doesn't really like it, but he feels like he's got nothing better to do with his life, so he's just gonna like pick on her a little bit. And then he like gets to know her a little bit more, you know, more things happen, and it quickly becomes, nobody can touch you but me, nobody can pick on you but me, this is not okay. Yes, so this one I devoured. I gave this one 4 stars. There's a lot of taboo stuff going on in here. Like I said, stepfather, stepdaughter. There is big age gap. There's also like sex worker in here. There's breeding kink. There's also trigger warnings for cheating, because they do a lot of sexual activities while he's still married to her mom. Actually, the very first chapter, he sneaks into her bedroom and starts to mess around with her. And yeah, that's basically how this book like hooked me from the start, because of that first chapter. There's also a lot of dubious consent in this one. I gave this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. There are some things that I didn't necessarily enjoy, which I'll talk about more in the vlog if you haven't watched it already. But basically at one point he takes away her birth control, and to basically like force her to get pregnant, even though she doesn't really want to get pregnant. So normally I hate that, and I didn't really care for it in this, but our hero is such like, he's almost like a puppy dog. He's very brutal and ruthless, but he apologizes for things, and he tries to make up for some of the stuff that he does. And like, he just does these things that are like so cute. Like, I can't stay mad at him. So yeah, so I really enjoyed that. Oh, actually, the only other thing about Brutal Intentions is that it like says it's like a mafia romance, but it's very, 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 very light on the mafia. Like, it's barely in there at all. They don't even make any mention about her family or his family being in the mafia, in the mob, in the syndicate, nothing like that. But you know that her family is used to being like violent and torturing people, and it mentions that his family does a lot of illegal things, so it's mostly just hinted at, but that wasn't a big deal for me. So then I read Violent Delights by Jessica Hawkins. This is the first book in the White Monarch trilogy. This kind of starts out almost as a love triangle of sorts. This is about our heroine. She is the daughter of the cartel boss somewhere in Mexico, and she is in love with one of his like minions. But her father doesn't really want her to be in love with anybody in the cartel, doesn't want her to get married to anybody in the cartel. And she's upset with this because she wants to basically like run away with this guy, but he is wanting to try to climb the ranks up in the cartel. And then we have this other character who is her love interest. It's his brother, and he had been banished from the cartel, and he's come back because he's brought new evidence to light. So he got banished because she thought that he had killed her mother. So now he's brought new evidence showing that he didn't kill her mother, and so her father is like bringing him back into the family, and she doesn't really like this. So this is a big like fight between the two brothers, and she doesn't really like the other one, and there's a lot of mystery going on. I gave this 3 stars. This was okay. I was intrigued by it at first, just to kind of figure out what was going on with all these 3 characters. It was very, very light on the romance. Like, steam on this is like low, medium, much lower than I typically read. I wanted more development with this one. And then we got to the second book of this series, Violent Ends. This one we got a little bit more development. At the end of the first one, there's a big cliffhanger, and she ends up having to get married to her enemy, basically to save the guy that she's in love with. But in this one, I gave this a little bit higher of a rating. I give this 3.5 stars because I felt like our heroine was, in the first one, she was very naive and young, and I don't know, I just didn't really care for it. She wasn't really like questioning everybody's motives, whereas in this one she is. I still didn't necessarily care for either of our heroes, just because it felt like more like they're just fighting over her to gain power in this cartel, since her father is the boss. But we get a little bit more of the other hero in this one, the one that's kind of like seen as like the enemy, or like the villain, the bad guy, whatever. So I did like that. There's a little bit more development of a love story in this one, but the steam on this is still going to be pretty low, medium-ish. Yeah, so then I read the last book for the Mafia Romance Readathon. I read Accidental Witness by Sam Mariano. This is the first book in her Morelli family series. This one took me a while to figure out my rating for this. This one was very different, and I wasn't expecting it to go where it went. But basically, this is about our heroine. She witnesses a crime. She witnesses the mafia killing her next door neighbors, and one of the people that killed them she actually goes to school with, so she has to see him every day, and they're basically trying to figure out if she's going to talk And in doing so, the guy that she goes to school with and her start to kind of form a relationship. They get to know each other. They start liking each other. Well, then the boss of this crime family finds out, and then he decides that he needs to test her loyalties. And yeah, I don't really know how to describe this. I ended up giving this 3.5 stars because I did enjoy it. Well, I don't even know if enjoyment is the right word. It was just very intriguing. Like, I couldn't stop reading it, and I wanted to continue to find out what was going to happen. But I actually, like, the love story in it was very light, and I honestly didn't really care about that at all. I mostly was intrigued by Mateo, who is the boss, and he is the villain, I guess, of this story. And I kind of want to read more just because I want to get more input from him. There are trigger warnings for non-consensual sex in this, not just dubcon, but real, like, non-con. Steam on this can be high. I don't even know what to say for this one. Like, it was just so intriguing. And I feel like that every time I read a San Mariano book, that I think this is my second one or my third one, that it's just, she makes these characters, like these male characters especially, that usually I hate them. Like, how she sets them up, I should hate these characters, but I'm just so fascinated by them. Like, I want to just keep reading. So that's how I felt with this one. Then I read That One Night by Emily Rath or Roth. I can't read my handwriting. This is the prequel novella to her Jacksonville Race series. I have been seeing this first book of the series, Pucking Around, I think is what it's called. I've been seeing this everywhere. Everybody is reading this, so I decided to pick up this prequel novella, kind of dive in, because that Pucking Around is like over 700 pages, and I always have an issue with really long books. Like, if it's over 500 pages, I usually don't like it. So I just wanted to, like, tip my toes in just to kind of see if I would like this author's writing style, if I would be intrigued enough to actually try to read a 700-page book. So this is basically a one-night stand book. Our two characters are meeting. Our heroine is in town for her brother's wedding, and our hero is meeting his sister, who lives in, I think, Japan. So they're meeting I think they're in Seattle, maybe, because it's like a halfway point for him to meet his sister, and his sister ends up not being able to make it there. So they're kind of bummed out. They meet at a bar. She's getting hit on, and he kind of rescues her. And they just decide to sleep together for the night. And it's really steamy. The steam was very high. I give this 4 stars. I really enjoyed this. I breezed through it. I got through it really quickly. I think I probably will move on to the really long book. I just don't know when yet. But it was really good. I enjoyed it. Then I read Violent Triumphs, which is the conclusion of the White Monarch trilogy by Jessica Hawkins. Basically, they're just kind of concluding everything. Our heroine is now with the villain of the other books, and they've developed their love. And yeah, I gave this 2 stars. I did not like this book at all. I thought this entire book was pointless because she brought back some characters and tried to do some twisty plot things that every time they popped up, I just rolled my eyes. I was very bored with this. I hated how this book ended. I hated it. Absolutely hated it. She also did some other stuff, like there is trigger warnings for miscarriage, and I thought that was very pointless. I didn't think this needed to be in this book. I think the author only put this in here to try to tug on people's heartstrings, and I just think it was unnecessary. And basically most of this book I felt like was unnecessary. The steam on this was still low to medium, which I did not really care for. It took freaking forever for our hero and our heroine to actually get together and have sex, and I was very annoyed with that. The love story was just meh. I didn't really care for it, like, at all. I don't know that I'm going to be reading any more Jessica Hawkins. I might try her out again at some point, but I was very disappointed by this series, to be honest. And then we get to, on the flip side, we get to the last book that I read for the first half of May, and the book that I did my cool like eye makeup, my 5-star. This is actually the first book that I have given 5 stars to this year, and that is going to be The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. I loved this book. Absolutely loved this book. I could not put this book down. This is a fantasy romance. This is about our heroine, Aurea, and she is a human, and she is the adopted daughter of the Vampire King. The Vampire King found her in these ruins. Her family had died, and he decides to take her in and feed her and train her, basically, to survive in this world of vampires. So she enters this competition of sorts that only happens every 200 years, I think. 100 years, one of those. And it's this big competition. All of the classes of vampires get to compete in this, and only one person gets to win, and the victor of this competition gets to ask a favor of a goddess, the goddess of death, and she's also known as the mother of vampires. She created these vampires. They get to ask her a favor, and she wants to basically ask a favor that grants her the ability to basically like have more power and be able to live in this world of vampires and not have to constantly be looking over her shoulder or constantly like not trust anybody, because she never knows if anybody is just trying to get close to her because they want her blood, because she is human. So she's basically like a feeding bag to these people. So while she's in this competition, she meets Rain, who is another competitor. He is ruthless, he is cocky, she doesn't really like him, but for one of the like, there's different, like, lots of different like tasks during this competition. It like takes place over like a couple months or a few months or so. So one of them, they know they have to actually work together with a partner. So they decide to team up, try to work together so they can help each other get further in the competition. But by teaming up with him, they have these like sparks between them. They have this desire between them. And she doesn't really know what to do with this because she's not supposed to trust vampires. She knows she can't trust vampires. And he's very mysterious too. He's not really letting her know everything that's going on with him or what all is happening. So, like I said, this was amazing. I couldn't put this down. I devoured this book. It is a 500-page book, so it is a good chunk of a book. There is some steam to this. It takes a good while to get to the steam, so it's definitely more of a slow burn kind of book. I would say the steam is more like medium, somewhere around there, but it is still like, when it's there, it is still a good amount of steam. It wasn't bad, but even then, I didn't really necessarily care about that because the plot is so good. It's so action-packed. Like, there's not a ton of like downtime or like dull moments in it. So I love that. Like, it helped me get through this book. Like, it went so quickly and I loved it. This is a first book of a series. So I was reading that this is going to be a 6-book series, but it's like a series of almost like duologies. So this book and the next book takes place in the House of Night, so all the different classes of vampires. Then there's going to be one with the House of Shadow, I think, and then the House of Blood. So I can't wait for all of these. I'm definitely going to be diving into the next book, and she has another, like, there's a novella that's in this world, and I know she's got some other type of vampire book and another like trilogy with like magic and stuff. I want to read everything by her now because I love this book so much. It was so good. So yeah, so that's gonna be the end of this wrap up. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like I said at the beginning, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button and let me know in a comment down below about some of your favorite books that you have read so far in the month of May. Otherwise, I will see you all in the next one. Bye guys.